The LG Procast, the podcast, is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views or opinions expressed by the podcast hosts and guests do not necessarily reflect the official position of LG. For the latest and most accurate information about LG products, please consult relevant product manuals and related documentation. The information provided in this podcast episode is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no representation or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, or suitability of the information for any specific application in the following discussion. LG and those posting or otherwise providing information, content, or material are not responsible or liable for any consequences relating directly or indirectly to any action or inaction you take based on the information, content, or other material on the podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the LG Procast. I'm Phillip Kriegbaum.
And I'm Terry Frisenda. Again, glad to be here. We have a special guest today, Mr. Chris Morin. Chris is the author of the book Leadership in HVAC. Chris is a former U.S. Marine. I've already thanked him for his service, so you can appreciate that. But Chris brings a unique perspective to the HVAC industry. So welcome, Chris. Glad you joined us today.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome,
I really
Chris.
appreciate the opportunity.
Terry, to jump in, I don't think there's such thing as a former Marine, I've been told.
Yeah, well, that's very valid point here, Mr. Kriegbaum. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Chris,
Very true.
thank you for your service. Thanks for being here. Love to just unpack some stuff that's in your brain. Got a great book. And then also want to talk about your business and your coaching and what you do and offer for contractors out there. So
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe we'll start with the book, maybe introduce some of the concepts there. Let us know what's...
Yeah. So I, like most of the listeners, probably started in the HVAC trade around 16 or so. I went to trade school. Actually, ironically, I wanted to be a cook. So I did one semester in culinary arts, and I realized cooking vats of food was not for me, even though I got an A. The A was nice, but my father was in the HVAC business. I was looking to change trades, and some of my friends were in the trade already in that section of the school. So I made that choice, right? And then I got my first co-op job when I was 16, carrying tools. Then everybody that went to trade school back then stuck with the trade, right? It wasn't like it is now. So my plan was to join the military to get college money, right? So I joined in 99. My grand plan was to be a marine electrician to get my hours for licensing. And then they made me a refrigeration mechanic instead. So I'll bore you with the story, but basically needs of the Marine Corps, right? So little did I know, September 11th hit, right? So I was a corporal, just promoted to corporal at the time. I did a couple trips overseas. I was in the invasion of Iraq in 2003, and then got out, went to college for one semester. Didn't even make it full semester. They called me back and sent me back overseas with a reserve unit for Fallujah in the first elections. So after that, I was like, Marine Corps, that's enough for me. But like you said, once a Marine, always Marine. And I got out, was a service tech, service manager, before I got my first job as a trainer working for the utility program in Massachusetts. Actually, I was there for 6.5 years, met a lot of businesses and a lot of technicians and service managers. A lot of it was quality installation focused at that time. And then I went to work for a manufacturer for the next 9.5 years before I got the opportunity to work for myself. Last September, I got a grant from the state of Massachusetts to start a business and teach people system design, quality installation, and leadership, right? So yeah, it's quite the journey over the last 20 something years. We won't say how long it's been. I feel like I'm no longer the youngest person in the room when I go places. I'm sure everybody can appreciate that. And I figured that I had a lot to share when it came to my experience in the Marine Corps. You know, things like leadership traits that felt like common knowledge to me, but I was just fortunate to be trained in those things when I was 19, right? So I see the struggles of the small businesses in the Northeast where I live and the guys I was meeting with for the last 20 years. And I realized I had a lot to say about it. So I organized it all and it made a decent book.
Yeah, I was reading through it last week. It's a great book. It's an easy read, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
You kept it simple enough, but deep enough. There's enough meat there that It's great. And I loved how you approached it from the service tech angle, from the office manager angle, which is huge for companies who have an office manager, an owner. And a lot of our guys, they wear all those hats, and as they grow, hopefully, as they grow their business, they get to hire an office manager, hire technicians and things like that. But, it was really, really cool to see how you would take each one of those principles. You mentioned tact being one of them, and just what does that actually look like in your business? Everyone's like, oh, be tactful, implement that. Well, when you have a guy like Chris writing a book that tells you what does that actually mean? What does that look like in a day to day, giving great examples. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Phillip. Yeah. I think, like specifically with TAC, not to spoil the book, right? Obviously, please. It's a great resource. And I think what you're going to find is it's a workbook that you can always go back to. It's not going to be like, I checked the box and I'm a great leader now, and it goes on the shelf, right? This is something like, I need to work on this, or I didn't handle that the best way. What should I do? I can go back and reference those 10, 20 pages on that particular trait, right? So, as you guys probably are aware, in the military, just like the HVAC trade, we have acronyms for everything in order to remember stuff, right? So with the leadership traits, there's actually an acronym for the 14 leadership traits in the Marine Corps. It's JJ, did, tie, buckle. And every letter is the first letter of each word, right? So justice, judgment, decisiveness, integrity, dependability, right? It rolls through. I won't go through all of them on the podcast today, but tact is one of them. And I think that was a big deal when I was a service tech, and I then transitioned into sales. I had to learn how to handle telling the truth and not avoiding it, but doing it in a way that was sustainable for my business and for the people I was working with, right? So you're not avoiding the truth, because that's not tactful. That's just the wrong thing, right? But saying in a way that was helpful. I think that was the key.
Here's a comment I have, or a conversation I have quite frequently with contractors. And here's a new word for your language or for your day-to-day work, and that is no. All right. At some point, no is going to be, and tactfully how you deliver that no is going to separate you from a bad business. Putting an outdoor unit where it doesn't belong, because that's where Mrs. Smith said she wanted it, and you knew full well it wasn't going to work there. Contractors have to learn to say no tactfully, right? And then offer a solution, not just say no, but then offer a solution, a resolution for it. So yeah, no's a powerful word that tactfully must be employed.
Yeah, I think what you'll find too, Terry, is it's not just tact. What you were talking about too was also probably, I'm trying to think through the traits real fast. There's another trait involved here.
Judgment
Yeah.
would be one.
Yeah, judgment. Yeah, there you go. Judgment or integrity.
Integrity.
Maybe doing the right thing.
Right.
Right. And holding your line, right? So like, and there's other things outside of where you should put the condenser, but like, are you going to use your recovery machine, or are you going to use a 5/16 screw, right? So, tact and integrity kind of go together in a lot of instances when you're a service guy or a sales guy. I think you'll find there's a combination here. And if you lack in one, you probably lack in the other too.
Well said.
What's not to spoil the book, but maybe to give a little bit more of a teaser, and obviously we just did briefly, but maybe you want to share one of the traits that's your favorite, and kind of give us a
Yeah.
little bit of a preview of what's in the book, and talk through one of the traits there.
Yeah. I think, this is a great question, Phillip. I think loyalty, is a big one. And that's one of my core values. If you guys have ever gone through the process of identifying core values, I think what you'll find, a lot of those words for core values are coming from leadership traits too. And I think loyalty is one, because loyalty is not just with the place you work or the person that works for you, right? But there's many things that can be across the board, no matter what your role is with loyalty, right? And if it's broken, I think you'll find that it turns into a reason why somebody leaves your company, or why you no longer buy from that distributor, or a manufacturer, right? So loyalty is really important, and it should go both ways.
What's an example for, say, a business owner, where they would fail in loyalty? on a often.
Yeah, there's a common saying that the customer's always right, right? And I think I was pretty fortunate. My first job, I worked at a small mechanical company, and the owner was the main salesperson, and I was a service tech, then the service manager. And I always had to go out as a service manager when there was a disagreement of on the install, on startup, or maybe the technician delivered something untactful, and I had to go and fix the situation, right? And I would always call the owner for resolution while I was there. What can we do? This is my story. And he would say, okay, well, what's the customer story? Right? And he would talk to the customer, and he felt the real solution was something in between. He could be loyal to the customer and his employee. So I think that's probably why it was really hard for me to leave that company after a decent stint there. I felt like I might have been breaking a little bit of loyalty there when I left. It was hard to leave because he had a culture that was good at the time.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with the first company I worked for in HVAC. Small small company, and yeah, it kind of broke my heart to leave. They were great to me.
Yeah, I felt like I was leaving not just the company, I was leaving the customers too, right? If you were on the service side, Phillip, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there was people that would wait for you. Actually, my second trip when I was deployed to Iraq, I had customers that were sending me things in care packages.
I was,
One time, yeah, it really like tugs your heartstrings. When I was leaving, there was a young girl, she might have been 6 or 7, and she asked, what are you going to miss the most? And I said, you know what? I'm really going to miss fall because in the desert, there's no leaves that change color, right? And
yeah,
that's why I came back to
and
New England. And she, that fall, packed up a bunch of leaves and sent it to me. And it was unbelievable.
nice.
I mean, if you ever want to see a Marine cry, right? So it was a tough one for me. It was that. And I also cried when I got some Dunkin' Donuts coffee too in the mail. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. So,
Yeah, coming from Massachusetts, I was up in Boston for the first time a couple years ago, and like I thought we had a lot of Dunkin' Donuts around my place. They're everywhere up there.
yeah. And they're
Couldn't
all
believe it.
successful.
Y'all
So,
love your Dunkin' for sure.
So, when we're talking about traits, since we use the words integrity and honesty, and it's no secret that not just the HVAC trade, but the trades in general have some association problems with those two trades. Um, you can read any newspaper in any city if people still read newspapers and see somebody did something not honest or not with
yeah.
integrity.
So if you're worried about making sure customers know that you're loyal or you have integrity, get customer reviews. That's what Google reviews is for, right? Let them talk about it there. Don't put it on the truck. I think your time with the customer should be selling the value that you're bringing, not the bare minimum.
Like you said, just getting positive reviews, letting the customer speak for you. Having I remember going through some sales training years ago, Weldon Long, and he was like, have letters from customers that you show that where you screwed up and you made it right, and have Mrs. Jones write a letter and
Yeah.
explain what you did. And that right there, when you have the customer voice saying it, it's kind of like somebody else giving you a compliment. So real quick, one more time, what's the name of your book? And then what's the
Yeah.
name of your company? And let's transition into that.
Yeah, so my book, the short one is Leadership in HVAC, right? But the subtitle there is Applying Marine Corps Leadership Traits to Residential Contracting. So, of course, my experience is in the Marine Corps and HVAC, but those leadership traits can be transferred to any electrical business, plumbing, anything like that. So, I think, like I said, it's a great reference tool. There's a in the back, there's a good 5-step process of how to get rolling with this and grade yourself and work on the things that can make the biggest impact first. And, it's not just full stories from myself. I interviewed 10 other veterans that are now in the HVAC business, and they give their experience around a certain trait when they were in the service and how it impacts their business today. So, I made sure it wasn't just a 170-page book about Chris. So, yeah, and obviously with my business, that's not necessarily, I'm not running around teaching leadership traits like they did in the Marine Corps, right? There's a much quicker and faster way to do that. I actually
All boot camp.
primarily, Yeah, boot camp. Yeah, Paris Island. So you won't leave there without knowing those 14 trades.
Exactly.
Trust me. So, obviously, I do many other things that are the primary portion of my business. So one of the biggest things, I teach system design. I'm an ACA Epic instructor. I was really fortunate about 13 years or so ago. I met Hank Rakowski, who wrote the manuals. And I did one of those take-home exams that he gives. I don't know if you guys have ever had the opportunity. It's a 40-question exam, so you can be certified as an Epic instructor. It was at least an hour per question, right?
Oh, wow.
And then I had a huge appreciation for software after that. So, I teach manuals J, S, D, and everything in between. And obviously I still write blogs, but it's rare. Most of it's video now. I have a YouTube channel. So I create content. I haven't done it in a little bit because I've been promoting the book, been on a few podcasts lately. So, I do that. I also provide coaching for anybody that's in New England. I work closely with residential distributors and contractors. I get a lot of the smaller guys that are looking to implement the quality installation process, or maybe want to start a maintenance program, or how do I figure out who I should hire first, that sort of stuff I always get in my coaching programs. I only coach a limited number of people. There's only so many hours in a day, so I try to work close in Massachusetts area or a surrounding state for that sort of thing. But I also offer a lot of training virtually. So I do teach a 4-week masterclass on residential system design, where we release content for each manual weekly, and then I do a live Q&A on Zoom every Friday in order to answer questions. So we do manual J week 1, manual ZR week 2, and so forth, right?
Gotcha.
And I'll kick that off again in September. Obviously, people are busy over the summertime, so
We
hard to
hope,
get.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the plan. That's the plan for everybody.
Is the business coaching also available virtually, or is that a in-person only option for you?
No, it is definitely available virtually. Actually, I just wrapped up one with somebody in Arizona. It's not limited to that. I think locally I get a lot of stuff around code and design because of the local focus on that sort of thing, especially with, fuel replacements and things like that here in the Northeast. So I do work with a lot of guys that do ductless or heat pumps exclusively because of that. But certainly I've talked to other programs, done training for other states around the country. I've worked closely with ACCA in order to help develop some of their training, and I hope to continue to work with them for the Northeast this fall too. So
Yeah, that's great. So I mean, the guys that listen to this podcast are the guys that are needing a lot of that information, a lot of that help. We all have to learn somewhere, but how to do a proper load calc, how to do a proper system design. I was very blessed to be taught and trained by somebody who did it properly. The owner of the company was a mechanical engineer, and that's just how I was trained. And so, I appreciate him very much taking the time to teach me. He wouldn't answer questions. I got a 20-minute dissertation of an explanation, and then I could answer my own question, which drove me nuts some days, but man, I appreciate it. But, a lot of guys need the information that you're putting out there. And then, Terry and I, we've met so many of them, great mechanics, great guys, and then they go to launch their own company and just realize that they don't know the business side of it. So it's great that you can come in and be an asset for both the technical, but also the business side. So
And I
yeah, I
know
think
I'm sorry, prior
Right.
to jumping on the podcast, we were having that conversation about the attrition rate of the small business in the HVAC world. And my guess is it's the same in the other trades as well. For the electrician that leaves and starts his own business, most are super mechanics, right? And that's why they rose to the ranks. They worked for probably successful businessmen and women that made that job look easy, right?
Yeah.
And didn't realize the time that's associated with being that leader and developing those skills. So yeah, it happens. It happens.
It's tough. It's hard to watch. By the time somebody reaches out, I'd say it's too late, but it's usually it should have happened years before that, right? And we talk the first year to 3 years is the most crucial in a small business, and a very hard time to actually turn a profit when they only own their job. You know, they don't really own a business at that point. So it's tough to get rolling until they can make that first hire and start to grow the business, right? So, you know, like we were talking about, Terry, we make great technicians and great installers in our trade, but we just don't make good business people. There's a lot of people out there that'll do that sort of thing for you, right? Yeah, I learned the hard way. And same thing, we didn't have a maintenance program, and I couldn't get the labor flat enough to hire people year round as a service manager. So we had to institute a maintenance program in order to get that income when we weren't super busy and the phone was running off the hook, and flatten the labor so we could do maintenance in April in Massachusetts when nobody was calling, right? So, you know, that first year we went from 0 to 300 maintenance contracts. It was awesome, and I was able to hire another person. But until we did that, there was no legitimate business reason to hire another person, right? You didn't know what was going to happen and when the phone was going to ring. We couldn't plan for it. So if you're in that sort of cycle, there's processes and ways, and like myself, I learned the hard way. If you're not here in New England and you don't know me, look locally to a lot of local organizations. There's a lot of nonprofits like local ACA chapters and, you know, building performance chapters and things like that, where there's these guys that are willing to give back to your trade, and they're willing to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes they did.
Yeah, I know. I stood in front of a crowd of contractors and said, you know, when you learn through the wallet, it's a lasting memory, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, when it
Yeah.
hurts there, it hurts.
Someone once told me you can't lose $1 on every job and make it up in volume. So,
Yeah. No, I had a dear friend that had a very, very successful new construction business in the East Coast of Florida. Work was just stellar. Design, install. You know, I'm not going to use his name, but I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, he's my age. At some point, you got to retire. You got nothing
Yeah.
to sell. You got nothing to sell.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what that maintenance program's for, right? That's recurring revenue that adds the value of the business. The ones that have been being bought up, everybody talks about this outside money coming in and buying up contractors. Those are the ones that are the most valuable that are getting bought, and that's because they have a maintenance program and recurring revenue and a marketing plan, and they
Absolutely.
actually have a business to sell outside of themselves. You know?
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we're pretty much out of time here today, but Terry, Chris, anything you guys want to put in there before we wrap up today?
You know, I thank Chris for what he does and for what he gives to our industry. Thanks again for your service in the Marine Corps. Glad to be a part of what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Phillip. I really appreciate it. And if anybody out there is listening, if you want to get 15 minutes on my calendar, just head right over to hvacproblog.com. If you click on the contact us page or any of the buttons, you can grab 15 minutes on my calendar. I'd love to hear your unique situation. Maybe I have some free resources that can help you, or maybe some of the paid services might be better.
Awesome. Chris, appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing with us. Everybody out there, please join us for the next episode of the LG Procast. See ya.
This episode of the LG Pro Podcast was recorded in June 2025 by LG Electronics USA Inc., LG, and features a discussion between LG hosts Terry Frisenda and Phillip Kriegbaum, and guest Chris Morin, author of the book Leadership and HVAC.